Welcome to Threads of Enlightenment, a podcast devoted to helping you overcome challenges in your life that prevent you from becoming the best version of yourself. Each episode features interviews with people from all walks of life about their journey of self-development and the principles they utilize to overcome their fears to achieve their desired outcome. Ready to be enlightened? Here's your host, Ken Primus.
Welcome to another episode of Threads of Enlightenment. Guys, you know my custom here is to welcome our guests because I know they're coming with a couple of things. Very expensive time. 24 hours has been offered to us all. What we do with that 24 hours is going to tell me a lot about you, man. It really does. I invite all of you guys to learn to value time. Love her. She will teach you much. The other is the journey. The journey is a powerful creator. It has created the individual before us. Gina has been affording us the opportunity to come and spend both of these quality commodities. And I want to thank her from the bottom of my heart for coming and spend this and sharing with us, because her journey deposited a couple of things into her. We want access to wisdom, knowledge, insights, all of those things. We want to dance with it, if you will. Gina, thank you so much for coming to Threads of Enlightenment.
Thank you so much, Ken, for having me, and for all those who are listening. Forever grateful.
Thank you so much. One of the questions that I mentioned to you, I tossed this question, if you will, to my guests, because I want the audience to understand the purpose of them being here on this planet. It's twofold. It's not just a singular journey. It's also an independent journey. And my question tossed to you is this: how do you serve mankind?
Oh, wow. That's a great question. And I probably 30 years ago, I would never thought of that question of serving. But yet today, the way I serve today, I had to go through my own personal journey to get to a place where I'm able to share my life, my heart, my service to all. And I'm an alcoholic in recovery. So a lot of my service today is trying to help another alcoholic to stay sober or whatever needs they need at this time. But it took me a long way, many paths, many threads of enlightenment to get to where I am today, because now I could say I serve fully with my heart of knowing who I am and who I'm not anymore.
That is awesome. Alcoholic and alcoholism and drug addict and drug abuse, all of those are just symptoms of a deeper thing that we have to deal with. And we utilize these outside entities and chemicals just to, most of the time, to numb us, not to have us face ourselves, because that's basically what it is. We have to face ourselves. And once we do that, we'll get past it, and the battle is always going to continue, just like any other thing, until we die. And so, but it's not our label, guy. It's just something that we used to cause us to hide, if you will, for a season. And then when we begin to deal with it, when it's time for us to deal with it, then we will walk and become free. One of our customs there is to go back. The beginnings of our beginnings, I call people. This is where we're given birth. This first location that we visit while we're here on this planet is called the family. In that unit, in that area, we're going to learn a couple of things. We're going to learn communication skills. We're going to learn behavior. We're going to learn all kinds of wonderful things, if you will. We're going to learn our modus operandus, as they say, how we are going to show up on this planet in the beginning stages of our life. What was your family unit like?
Well, I grew up in New York, Long Island, one of 8 kids. I was the 7th child. My family, in a nutshell, was great. Loving, unconditional love from my parents. And I experienced that throughout my childhood and throughout my life. But yet, growing up, I was born with a lot of so I put myself in a category, like the poor me category. Look at me, comparing to my siblings were very athletic, beautiful. And here I was, this little petite, short girl, shorts that I had many surgeries because I had a hip, everything. And so I kind of, in my mind and heart, not my parents, but in my mind, I formed this self-pity for myself. I formed this false self. I had a great smile, but I never really said, hey, you know what, this hurts and I don't like this. I'm like, yeah, I'll take it, whatever, yes. And looking back in hindsight, I was insecure. I was full of fear. And I was sort of running away from myself. I didn't have that. I didn't like myself, to be honest. I did not like myself as a child. And I never really told anyone because there was so much love around me.
Yeah.
That it was it was helping me, really. It was helping me to get through my life, because if I didn't have love around me, I don't know where I would be today. So as a child, I compare, I identify, I was searching for love in all the wrong places, going here. And that's where kind of my drinking began. Like you said, I was hurting on the inside. So what does drinking do even at a young age? It's like I want to be someone that I'm not. I don't want me. I don't want to be me. I want to be like this one and like this one. And so that's how I kind of grew up. But yet at the same time, my family was wonderful, great holidays and everything like that. But I learned that insecurity and that fear at a very young age because of just my own inadequacy, my own insecurities.
Yeah, I mentioned to you on the onset of the program that there are programmers that we really don't talk about, when we talk about programmers. But those low self-esteem, fearfulness, all of those dark sides are also programming you and I, because here you were in a surrounding of love, and yet you were being programmed differently. And that program came from you internally, and you began to judge yourself based on that program. And that's why I tell people, be very mindful of the programs that you are allowing access to you, because those are the ones that will really hurt you. They will be the ones that will define you, if you will. Church, of course, will have some of the things, and society as well. But those little ones that we are now beginning to talk about, depression, mental dis-ease, and all of these different low self-esteem, all these programmers that are programming us in the midst of love. So here you are, Gina, you're in the midst of love, and you are yet being distressed by yourself and your inner thoughts as you're moving through life. How old were you when you began drinking?
I was around 8 years old.
Wow.
My family loved to have parties, and for some reason, as an 8-year-old, I would ask my dad, "Can I have a screwdriver?" And he's like, "It's in the garage." And I'm like, "No, I want the vodka and orange juice." And so, I mean, I was surrounded by drinking, but not heavy drinking. But it just was like, when I had that first drink, and when I did drink, it was like I became the life of the party, or somebody that I thought I would want to be.
Yeah.
Because, it's so true what you had shared earlier, Ken, because I formed my personal identity of just, there was an emptiness inside me, which I didn't realize I was feeling. I was just trying to fill it up of, whether it was drinking or peer pressure, whatever, friends, or like something outside the realm of the love I was getting. I didn't realize that love would have been sufficient if I allowed it in my heart, or if I didn't program myself to be feeling unloved, or feeling that insecurity, or wanting to be the center of attention.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it's a young age to begin the outward self-destruction. You were dealing with the inward self-destruction with the different dark programmers. And then at age 8, to introduce now the outside influences, and meaning that the material stuff, the things that you can, the tangible, if you will, the drinks and stuff like that, the drugs and whatever else we introduce at such a young age. When you were heading towards college, and first of all, let me ask you this. Here's this young individual dealing with such dark things within herself and surrounded by love. What was your communication skill outside of your family? How did you deal with others, if you will?
I was a people pleaser. I wanted, my communication is like, "Oh, you want me to do that? I'll do that." Like whatever you want. When like you were saying, I did go to college, but my mentality of college wasn't to go get a degree. It was to be away from my family so I could drink and have fun freely, like any college, every college kid, thinks like, "Yeah, let's do it." And yes, people do it in college, but people knew when to stop or when to study and things like that. But I was just, I mean, and mind you, Ken, everyone did love me because I was this cute little Gina, little Brigida. Everyone thought I was a cute little, but yet I felt like, with the drinking and, just being in this, to be loved to be that center, to be like, yeah, look at me. Look, I was looking for love in all the wrong places. And especially it was strong in college. I did get my degree, but I wasn't, in hindsight and looking back, it was sort of like looking for my next fix or looking for something to make me popular, to make me love, but not the real love that my heart was really looking for, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely does. And here's this young woman. She's into college. As you said, you expressed the reasons as to why. And everyone has their reasons why they leave. And they're heading towards adulthood, if you will. While you're there in that space of college, again, we visit all these institutions, these program institutions, if you will, that tell us we ought to behave and think certain way and certain things like that. When you got in school, Gina, what field of study did you pick, and why did you pick it?
I picked social work, sociology, because it was easy. I didn't have to study from any test. I do reports. Reports is not to say plagiarism, but like, okay, I'll take this sentence and put it like this. And also, by nature, I do have a heart of service.
Yeah.
By nature, I am a compassionate person and a caring person. So as I got into college, picking my major in my second year, it was like, okay, let me do social work because you're helping people.
Yeah.
You're not helping. Yes, you're trying to help yourself, but you're really like, that was my motto, is to help people. So I did. I got a 4-year degree in social work. I also learned how to shoot pool. I was a very good pool shark, so that was an extra degree in that. But other than that, that's what I did.
Yeah,
that's what I studied for.
Napoleon Hill made a statement that we hide in our work. People begin to work really hard. And I remember when I was going through my process that work was one of the areas, if you will, that I can go and hide and not deal with myself and not deal with those thoughts that were coming, because our goal is not to ever allow ourselves the opportunity to let those thoughts really sit there for too long, because we know we have to deal with stuff, if you will. So we try to keep busy. As you are working and keeping busy by doing social work and study and quote unquote helping, I'm sure you immersed yourself in it. How was she doing? How is Gina doing?
Well, at this point, I was like on top of the world. I thought like I had it all. I thought this was my happiness. This is what it's meant to be in my life. I mean, because after I graduated with those 2 degrees, I went to go live with my family. They moved to Pennsylvania, my parents. And what did I do with those 2 degrees? I became a bartender.
Yeah.
I didn't go for a social work job. I went for a bartending job. And I'm like, this is like social working.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm
it is
helping
social
others.
work. Yeah.
And I'm in an environment that I was comfortable in.
Yeah.
Because when I used to go to the bars in college, everybody knew me. Everybody loved me. Everyone, they had a sign for me, we'll miss you, Gina, when you leave, or the best pool shark. I was like, oh, so I like that. Yeah. So it was a comfort being around the bars, being around the drinks, and everyone. And as we know, which I've learned, is when we do drink, we become either someone you like or someone you don't like, and so, and then I'm not a big government paperwork person, so I was like, bartending is it. So I gave up my social working, looking for jobs in social working, that I stayed as a bartender for a few years after college.
And as a bartender, here's this young 8-year-old girl who started drinking. And now as a bartender, you pretty much have freedom to have access to all that as much as you want. And you know how it is in the bar life. I was there. You have your customers, your favorite customers that will buy you shots all night and all day long. And everyone is just drinking and having a good time. How, as you're moving through your life, Gina, and you're there, how did all of that type of lifestyle living as an individual begin to really impact you? Because it begins to show up, guys, in our life, and it show up. So how did it begin to show up in your life, Gina?
Well, as I was living with my parents, so I was sort of living a double life, my drinking and then when I'm home. So my parents really never knew. Of course, they knew I was a bartender. My mom was like, you're not going to find a man bartending. Go to the laundry room, go to grocery shopping to find a nice guy. Because again, my dream at the age of 18, talking about this woman, by the time, or earlier than that, is that I wanted to be married by the age of 18 and have 5 kids by the time I turned 25, because that's my upbringing, seeing my parents raising 8 kids. It's like, this is what I want. But here, and then I'm saying, okay, I'll find my guy in college, which I didn't, of course. There was nobody there. I kind of disrespected myself and my body. So I was with here and there, with different guys, but wasn't like a marriage like my sisters. Once again, I'm comparing to my oldest sisters that found their love of their life. So when I came to bartend here, I was thinking, well, this is it. My parents, I was kind of like thinking, well, maybe I will meet a guy in a bar. But then I had a whole new goal, since I'm not married, since I don't have kids now, I'm 23, that I wanted to be in the hospitality field. And I thought, okay, my goal is to go be on the Love Boat, the cruise line.
Yeah.
And that was like, yeah, okay, bartending is not good, but if I'm on a cruise director like Julie McCoy on the Love Boat, then that's it. This is going to be my life. Forget about the social work, but I'm still in that mentality of that scene of having fun. Like you said, in a sense, running away from Gina because don't want to face Gina and helping others. And yeah, let's everyone, let's play bocce. Yeah, let's go, looking upon others to have them have fun. But for me, that just kind of really distracted myself. But that was my goal, or that was my dream at that time.
Did you achieve that dream?
But that's okay.
It didn't happen. So.
I didn't have a dream. I did not get on the cruise line. That dream just went sideways again. Yeah. Or it disintegrated again. Like all my dreams, all my goals, all my thoughts. Like, this is what I'm supposed to be the rest of my life. No, it didn't happen.
And what did all of that happen to you, as your quote unquote stated, all of your dreams didn't happen? What was it doing to you internally as, these things that you have in your mind didn't begin to manifest? How did it affect you?
I was getting discouraged. I was getting disappointed. I was really not liking myself. I was having all these negative thoughts. I was like, because throughout my life, like I shared with you, I had a lot of physical problems, but I always felt like everything happened to Gina. So by the time, by the time I'm bartending, okay, I'm not going to find a guy, like everything, oh, well, give it to Gina. She'll endure it. She'll suffer. She doesn't need to be happy. Wow. And because, as I said, as I was really wanting to be on the cruise line, because I enjoyed traveling, my mother at the time, she was diagnosed with cancer at the time. She went in for a minor surgery, comes out, and she's diagnosed with terminally ill. Wow. She had 4 to 6 months to live. So, little behold, like I shared with you, my parents to me were God. Like I loved them so much. Yeah. I didn't think twice to say, okay, Mom, Dad, you take care of Mom and I'm going to still go on the cruise. Never. I just put that aside. I said, okay, this is what of course, because then at that time, my younger brother went off to college and all my 6 siblings were, married and doing their life.
Yeah.
And I was like, I figure. So really my mind and my mentality is like, it always happens to Gina. No worries. I'll do it. And by this time, I did not complain because I was so used to it.
Yeah.
I was so used to even physical pain at the time. I broke my leg. I was used to it. Like if anything, okay. I always felt if there was a fire in the house, 20 people in the house, 19 will get out safe and sound. And I will either die or something, like I would have like this big, long recovery.
Wow.
And that's those were my thoughts in my mind. And so I did. I took care of my mom for those 5 months. She did die. And that's where my first thread of enlightenment came into my life. Like, what is the meaning of life? What is the purpose? Why did my mom die? So I went on that kind of journey after that. So Love Boat, everything, it sunk.
Yeah.
It all sunk. It didn't even occur in my mind because I was in such a deep grief losing my mom at a young age, 23, 24, and also watching her die And at the same time, yeah, I was raised Catholic, and going back to prayers, going back to church, bargaining with God, like saying, and here I thought, Ken, I got it. Mom's going to be healed if we do A, B, C, D, E. But yet she didn't. She had bone cancer from the get-go back in 1991. So I felt like I'm holding my mom, doing everything, but she just went through my hand, and she died. And I was her caregiver besides my dad. And it was in hindsight, I look back, it was a gift. Back then, it wasn't a gift.
Yeah, of course.
And there was 5 of us siblings around her bedside with my dad. And in hindsight, she had a beautiful death, I could say now.
Yeah.
But 33 years ago, I would be like, no, where's my mom? I want my mom back. How could this happen to me?
Yeah.
Everything is happening to me.
Yeah.
Like I can never get a break in life. And I was 24 when I lost her.
When you lost her and you talked about the impact, as you said, that she had on you, and you began to question things, and everyone has their conversation with God, if you will, as to why things happen. That conversation is always, why did you do this to me and stuff like this and all this kind of things. And then we internalize it, and then we turn our back and we go all over the place and begin to act even worse than before. And that's what I did. I remember when I turned on God, I told him, I'm going to be the baddest sinner you ever saw on this planet. And I'm sure he had a laugh about that. But, we do what we do to survive, if you will. Here's this girl. According to Gina, she has been dealt a difficult hand all her life. Everything is about, the whole universe has been conspiring against you, if you will, in your belief system at that time. When mom died and you began to ask those questions, Gina, as to, you said that was your first taste, if you will, of those enlightenment period. What did that look like? That first introduction, that first part of your introduction to that, Threads life or personal development?
Well, like I said, when my mom died, we're at the wake, and it is exactly like people were saying, your mom's with God, your mom's in heaven. And yes, I believed in heaven and hell because I grew up like that, but who's this God person? Like I believed in God, but I didn't have like a relationship with God or with any spiritual. I wasn't spiritual in my heart because there was that emptiness. So I did. I went back to the church very angry. I was crying all the time. And I would say to God, God, people tell me my mom is with you and that she's here with you. I said, I don't want to talk to you.
Yeah.
Get out. I just want to talk to my mom.
Yeah.
So in a way, I kept talking, journaling to my mom for the first year. I would go to the church. I would go back to my mass, do that routine, pray whatever, what I learned. And then all of a sudden I had one would say like an enlightenment of, oh my God, my mother is at peace. My mother is in heaven. I was like, wow. I had like the resurrection. I had like a St. Paul's conversion, one would say, oops, but I fell off the bar stool, I say. I didn't go off the horse, they say, but I fell off the bar stool. And so in that, talking about going from one extreme here on one extreme, and then I'm like, I know who God is. I know the light of the light of the resurrection. I know this. And so I went from the other extreme, being a, whatever you want to call it, Christian Catholic warrior, like, yeah. And so in that, instead of growing in that, one would say, or my faith, my faith returned, that's when I decided to become a nun. So I joined the convent. I was a Catholic nun for 12 years. So I'm like thinking now, once again, Ken, this is my goal. This is my life. I'm giving my whole life to God, to this community of sisters in the South Bronx, to the church, to his people in service, because, it was a heart of service. That's it. But as you could see now, I'm not wearing a habit. I'm out of the convent. It's been about over 15. So that wasn't it. That was not it. And
Once you got there, Gina, because everyone thinks being in the institution is where God is. And I tell him he's not, most cases, he's not even there. He's in the hearts of men and women that love him, and that's where he resides. And he tells us that. He says, I reside in the heart of my people. Here you are in a nun, in the capacity of a nun, one that represents or embodied servanthood, if you will. Gina has had a tough one. She had been dealt a tough hand from 8 years old. She's been internalizing. She's all these things, bartender, all of that. Mom died, hate God, talked to mom, got the light happen, ran into the church. Now you ran into the church, Gina. What was that like?
Oh, I have to say, Ken, in the beginning, in hindsight, I look back, there was a lot of blessings.
Yeah.
I can't change it now. And at that time, in the beginning, it was like blissful, like a honeymoon. Wow,
Yeah.
this is great. And once again, people love me. How could you not love me?
Yeah.
I'm Gina. I'm Gina Economopoulos. Now I'm Sister Regina.
Yeah.
Once again, a heart of service, being there. We worked with the poor and evangelization.
Yeah.
So I loved it. Share my experience going from a bartender to being a nun,
Yeah.
and sharing my story. But then yet, as time was going on in the convent in itself, I still didn't have that spiritual connection with God. It was all religiosity, religious.
Yeah.
I see now. As time was going on, for some reason, because it was a brand new community I was part of. Yes, there was friars, and it was a well-known community, and everybody loved me because, once again, even though I wore a habit, even though I was giving myself to God, there was still that people pleaser in me. There's still
Yeah.
that fear in me. There's still that insecurity in me. I mean, I've given so many talks to kids, to people from 5 to 2,000 to say, yeah, God loves you, which is true. But yet there was nothing, I didn't have that connection inside me. So as time was going on, I was experiencing a lot of pain, a lot of suffering from the hands of my community. Betrayed, it was like a persecution. There was a time, and at the last, here I am, I'm experiencing the high points, and then I'm experiencing real painful, difficult situations that God allowed, or someone allowed for me to go through. And it got to a point after 12 years that I did everything I could, like in a marriage. When somebody has a rocky marriage, they try to work it out, because by this time in my 7th year of religious life, I was in final vows. I wore a wedding ring. I gave up everything, poverty, chastity, and obedience. I made those vows to God, to the church, to my sisters. And I was just, as time was going on, I was getting a lot of pain, suffering, you name it.
Yeah.
And it was ugly. There was a time in my life that it was such an ugly situation that I just was like, how can this be? How can good religious people do this to me again? To me again. This is all about me. And yes, I suffered a lot till the end. And when it came in my 12th year, in the last 2 years, I was sent away trying to get help. I did everything I could, blood, sweat, and tears, because, here I'm being called by God, and here I'm having such a difficulty time staying in that calling. And here I'm being persecuted and receiving a rejection and pain from my community. And then it's like I leave. It's like, oh my God, now you're rejecting me. So I had gone through all these feelings, emotions, and it was just a real painful, difficult time. And once again, I had the thread of the enlightenment going in, but by the time I came out, it was like, what's going on in my life? I'm 42 years old. How could this be? How can this be? Here I was supposed to live this life forever in a full habit. And here I get rejected because the last words they said to me is like, sister, you don't belong here anymore. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
And for us as religious, when your superior says something, you think it's the enlightenment from God. Enlightenment for obedience. Okay. I mean, all along you kept saying I belong here, and now you're saying I don't belong here. So I was one confused pup when I left the convent. I
hope you guys are listening to Gina, because and you heard what she said. And I tell people, because people are working, quote unquote, in the church and in the organization, if you will, it doesn't mean that they know God, because many of them haven't had a really encounter with God, a really personal thing. Because when you have a personal encounter, changes begin to happen to you on a level that is much different than when you work in the organization. Those changes is your personality. He begins to deal with you, because the Bible tells us that the individual that is inside this house is a soul, a spirit that lives in there, and psychologists will call that individual the subconscious mind and whatever. When, because I came out of the church, and I know that quote unquote people are saying that they're Christians, but none of them have ever even had a relationship with God, but they're Christians because their mother and father grew up in the church, and the title Christian, they work in it, and so they assume that they're Christian, but they're nothing. They don't know anything about God. God says you have a form of religion, but you're an empty shell. You don't know who I am. And that's who a lot of those people up there, not all of them, but a lot of them that are there, as you stated, you were there and you didn't have that personal connection and you were still in pain. So a lot of those people are still in pain and never have any personal connection to God and behave as people are in pain. And you were one of the first person, and in your history, if you will, you were treated that way. You were aware that there are people in pain up there, and they will beat the hell out of you, as they say, because also there's ego there and all kinds of stuff there, but there's no love. There's none whatsoever. That represents a God. And so here you are, broken, don't know left and right. God has turned his back on you according to how you had perceived from being in that facility. When God turned your back on you and you grew up in a religious setting, where do you go from there?
I do have to say, once I left the convent, because mind you, I just want to share, Ken, like about a year before I left, I was sent away. And not that I was asked to go away to go on a silent retreat. And in that silent retreat, I found the heart of God.
Yeah.
So when I came back to the community with this new relationship, like I'm in my heart, I wanted to share with them. And they didn't want to hear it. Mm-hmm. And that's why at the end, we were really clashing, because I had experienced such peace in my heart at the time that I'm like, I don't want this to be taken away from me again. And so that's why they kicked me out, because they weren't open to what I was receiving. Mm-hmm. So from there, granted, I was still broken, everything, and I'm still doing like my homework that I learned from the silent retreats just to maintain that inner relationship. A friend of mine, when I was a sister, she ran a home for men and women with disabilities here in New Jersey. So she said, would you like to come and be a house mother to them? Because I'm like 42. This is in 2008. Don't know what happened the last 10 years of world and life. Did not know what world was all about. I lived a, austere life. And I was like, okay, I go. And it was the best transition time. Mm-hmm. Because I was a house mother. I was working with men and women with Down syndrome or autistic. And they loved me. I was so broken, but I didn't realize that how I could be loved by disability men and women. I mean, they just loved me unconditionally. And so I stayed there for 2 years. It was a great transition time. Now, at this point, I'm still with God. I'm still in the church, but yet I'm questioning, what do I do? A lot of people who found out that I got kicked out and what was done to me, there was an uproar of the community. And then some of them like, oh, you need to go to another religious community, because I was a great sister. Like I said, everybody loved me. And I'm like, why would I want to go to another community and get hurt by women? Because I do believe women can hurt women, mm-hmm. Sisters, whether sisters. Why would I want to do that? So I did come to terms that I had fulfilled one vocation in life as being a sister, because it's a vocation. And now I'm like, okay, now I'm going to learn how to live the world, or live life in the world, and hopefully find a relationship of a guy, maybe hopefully to get married, which that was my dream from the beginning.
Yeah. So as you are out now and you're realizing that you want to be a part of, quote unquote, the world, and separating yourself from there, what began to happen in your life? How did you begin to assimilate, number one? And then how did it end up where you're becoming an author and all this type of stuff? How did that transition begin to take place and take form in your life?
Well, after being 2 years with the men with disability, getting that healing, I came to the Jersey Shore. I had to relearn everything, mm-hmm. rented apartment, et cetera, all that. And so I had to get a job. And my dad was alive at the time, and he supported me in every way. And but yet I had to work.
Yeah.
And what do I know how to do is be a sister or be a bartender. And I didn't want
Yeah.
to be a sister, so I went back to bartending. So I came back in the world thinking like that. Once again, I'm back in my surroundings of the bartending. And then during that time, I met a guy. Finally, Ken, I met a guy, a nice guy named Danny. And ultimately, in the bar, of course, I met him in the bar as a bartender, and come to realize that he was an alcoholic. He was drinking. And that's where alcoholism came into my world, into my life, because I really didn't know what an alcoholic was. Ultimately, to make a real long story short, he ultimately died from this disease like 2 years after we were together.
Yeah.
I found him dead a month before our wedding day. So once again, third trauma in my life. Why God? Why me? Why couldn't Danny stay sober? Etc. Etc. And that was the time I was in so much pain that I did not want to live. I didn't have any enlightenment. I was in the darkness, and that was that time that I wrote out. I journaled out all my pain in regards of Danny, and then all the pain from the sisters. A lot of deep pain that nobody knew I went through. What happened was what I experienced. I wrote all that out. I took that aside, 180 pages. Once again, no enlightenment. And where Danny died, it was in Indianapolis, so I was there. I decided to come back just to live life in darkness.
Yeah.
That was my purpose, to suffer. But then yet, through God's grace or through the universe or something greater, another enlightenment, I went into the rooms of AA, because now I'm wondering why Danny died and these people are sober.
Yeah.
And then as you could tell, I like to search. I'm a searcher, even though I go through pain and suffering. I'll search, I'll persevere, whether I like it or not. And here I'm in the rooms of AA, dead as a doorknob,
Wow.
just listening. And then months later, I came to realize, wow, they're talking about me. I'm an alcoholic.
Wow.
And that's where it would be 10 years, God willing, in April. I have 10 years of sobriety. On April 2nd, 2015, I said, hi, my name is Gina. I am an alcoholic. Another enlightenment.
Wow.
And,
Congratulations,
and
Gina.
That's where, to this day, that enlightenment grows.
Yeah, congratulations on that, because that takes courage. And I try to educate folks, Gina, that when you are walking that road of personal development, you have to be, it is one of the most courageous things you will ever do in your life. First of all, you have to begin to face yourself. And that is courageous stuff, because when you're looking into yourself, you're seeing you know what you did, and so you know what you did, you know how you behaved, and the guilt and the shame and all the less than stuff you start to regurgitate back and forth. And then if light does not come in there, you are in trouble. But once light comes in, it takes courage now again to begin to reprogram yourself about your belief. Who are you? Not the dark side. Those thoughts will come a million times a day, and a million and one time you will have to say, I am beautiful. I love me.
Yeah.
I am, and you start to speak the I ams into your being, and you would be amazed to see over time what begins to happen to you. Because I tell people, be mindful of what you say to yourself, because you're really listening. So when you take that and you begin to speak life into yourself, watch what happens to you over time. It's not a instantaneous thing, because you took years to program yourself to believe that you're less than, and it's going to take you time to reprogram yourself to let you know you are greater than what you were saying before. So here you are. You put all those things in there. You're in a dark place. You found yourself, and you began to implement the program, because I know the principles within the AA program, very good stuff. And so as you began to utilize those principles, Gina, what did you begin to notice about you? Here's this woman that has been in a journey for a long time of just darkness one upon another. And here you are in AA, began to stand up and recognize self, and began now to engage in repairing of self. how did it begin to manifest? How did it feel to you as you began to implement those things?
Well, at first, when I had said my name is Gina, I'm an alcoholic, I was like, who said that? Because for so long, I kept saying I didn't identify myself as an alcoholic. So I'm like, who said that? And then at that moment, Ken, talking about all the pain, everything that I carried, all that darkness, all the anger, the fear, the insecurities, the situations of life just opened up, and my body was so raw, and it was double pain. And then inside me, someone said to me, something was said to me is like, do you want to go drink this away? Which, to get rid, because it was so painful. Or the other side said, or do you want to go on your pity couch and just and dwell up in it? And I'm like, no. And they said, well, being in the program, and it's true, the steps of the program truly helped me one day at a time. It wasn't overnight. It was like I had to accept it first. I had to surrender. It was being honest, open, and willing to say, I'm an alcoholic. Oh my God, I'm not like that person. I was comparing, but I had to learn to identify, because we alcoholics, or anyone in addiction, the common denominator is, like you said, it's pain. It's that pain and insecurity, and it's what do we do with it today? And the program has given me a new life, has given me a way to live life on life's terms without picking up a drink, also without going into that pity couch. Yeah. Which now and then, yes, I have to choose not to drink today. And now and then I may go on my pity couch, but I'm like, no, I'm not going to stay there anymore, because it doesn't taste good anymore. Yeah. I mean, I have a new taste of life. I could participate. I could be alive. Yeah. I'm alive today. And that's every day. I'm so grateful that I am alive, that I'm sober, and that I've God and a higher power in my life. And everything else is a bonus for me, because I experience what darkness is. I experience being in that pain, and now tasting light and tasting, life. Yes. And then realizing that life goes on with me or without me. Throughout my whole life is all about me. Yeah. And so, of course, situations come up, health problems, death still. Yeah. I mean, that comes on. But I have the tools of the program. I have a new God in my life. I have a new enlightenment every day to face situations one day at a time to my best ability. I mean, I'm not perfect, but to my best way of handling life. And this is more peaceful. I'm going to go in this direction. I'm going to chase this instead of chasing the darkness. I want to chase the light, and not to, not continue to give up, and like, wow. And then if I'm in a dark place, I'll be like, you know what? It doesn't taste good. Where was I last? This too shall pass. And then what happens? It strengthens my enlightenment, or strengthens my faith. It strengthens my life of willing to live instead of wanting to die.
Gina, let me ask you this question. You're standing in a stadium. You have a mic. And all you guys that are listening to us, I'm going to provide the links and stuff like that so you can get access to Gina and all of the things that she has. And you have been listening to our talk, and to see where she was to where she is today. And many of us have been on that type of similar road, if you will. And we have our own unique way of dealing with stuff, as she does. But she made it onto the other side. And many of you are in the midst of your darkness, if you will. Gina, you have a mic. You're standing on a stage, and that mic is connected to every single electronic TV apparatus there is on this planet. And you have an opportunity to speak to the entire universe, all of us. You have an opportunity to speak to us here on this earth. What would you say?
I would say, do not give up, that there is light in you. There is light carrying you, whether it's God, higher power, or someone greater that's not you, that will see you through. And then I will also always end it saying, if nobody told you they loved you today, I do. I love you.
Guys, I'm going to leave it there, because how can I beat that? Gina, this has been a wonderful time. I am honored that you came and you opened yourself to us, and you afforded us the opportunity to visit with you, to be a part of your existence, your energy, your wisdom, your knowledge. All of you offered to us here. And I am so honored that you showed up. Again, Gina, thank you so much for coming to Threads of Enlightenment.
Thank you so much, Ken, for having me. What a privilege and what an honor for me to share my story and just to be with you. what an enlightenment for me too as well.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thanks for tuning in to Threads of Enlightenment with Ken Primus. Hopefully you're now feeling more empowered to overcome the challenges in your life, whatever they may be. Share that inspiration with others by telling them about this podcast, rating it, and of course, remember to subscribe so you don't miss a single episode. For more connection, you can find us on Facebook and Instagram by searching for Threads of Enlightenment. Until next time, stay enlightened.